Barstow, and there were some ponds, there were some fish on it, so he got really imaginative and he called it fish ponds. He got together with some guys who were prospectors, and he got into a grub staking agreement. What that means is they agreed to financially get together, and they would go out and find some minerals, and whatever they found, he would back them, and they would hopefully make millions of dollars. And guess what? They found something. In that hill right up there, they found what would eventually become the Silver King Mine, which is the largest silver strike in the United States at that time. There was only one other larger silver strike, and that was in Alaska a few years later. And the town blew up shortly after that. The amount of silver they pulled out of there is about 200 tons of silver, around $200,000 in their money at that time. A couple months ago, I had a kid, I say kid, he was a college student, who was a math major. And he had an app for that, and he figured out how much money that is in modern dollars. And he said it's close to $1 billion worth of silver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
They, like I said, they pulled silver out of there for 15 years, and they stopped not because they ran out of silver, but because the price of silver dropped and became unprofitable. So when you come back here during the daytime and you look up there, you'll see some pile of British rock. That is silver ore that they just left behind. So if you want to break the rules, break your neck or break your head, you can run up that hill and grab yourself some reddish rock and say you mined some silver at Calico. If you're a little less adventurous and don't want to go the hospital bills, you can run up this hill right up here to the place that's called the Rock Shop and buy yourself a little piece of reddish rock. And tell everyone you ran up that hill and mined some gold. Just make sure to take the price tag off. Like I said, the town blew up shortly after the mine opened up. Word got out that there was this huge silver ore, so the town went from 0 to 2,000 people almost overnight. First off, they decided they named the town. I think it was named by some lonely miners because they thought the hills were as pretty as a woman's calico dress. And that's how they got the name Calico. Also named the Calico Hills. They had every amenity that a town would need. They had 20 bars, so you figure out 2,000 people, 20 bars. I'll use the word, and I'll let the adults explain to the kids what it is. They had 4 bordellos. So you do the math: 4 bordellos, 2,000 people. There were some tired women. Let's see. They had a lawyer's office. They had a sayer's office. They had their own newspaper. And they had their own schoolhouse. The one thing they did not have was a church. They never got around to building a church. They did have a meeting hall where they had an organ, and they did have Sunday meetings in their meeting hall. If you want to see what the organ looks like, you go to Barstow at the Mojave River Valley Museum. On the weekends, the docent looks suspiciously like me. That's just a coincidence. And the organ is sitting in the museum there. Does not play, by the way. Let's see. We had some famous people that come and visited this town and worked here. One of them was a young kid that lived in a town called Water. If you go down the 40 freeway, you'll see Water today. It's now called Newberry Springs. His uncle by marriage was John King, and he helped out at the mine, did some paperwork, even dug some digging. The problem is the farm failed, so his family had to pick up and move, so he had to leave Calico. And they moved to Buena Park. And they started another farm there. But that farm became more famous for the cafe they started out front that served fried chicken and berry pies. Does anyone know what that farm was called?
Knott's.
Knott's Berry Farm. And that young boy was Walter Knott, who started the amusement park. In 1950, Walter Knott found out that Calico was for sale, lock, stock, and barrel, and that's pretty much all that was left here, just a few buildings. And so he bought the town, and he set about to rebuild it as an attraction. So most of the buildings you see here are copies of what was originally there. He used photographs, newspaper articles, city plans and stuff, and he did a pretty good job of being faithful to it. There are some buildings that we'll be passing a couple on the way to the mine. I'll point those out. And for those of you who are on the mine tour, I'll point out some more of them. In 1961, Walter Knott decided, wanted to expand it, maybe turn it into more of an amusement park, but he couldn't get the permits to do it. So he decided to get out of the ghost town business, and he gave the whole town to the county of San Bernardino, and that's how it became a state park. And there we go, and that's the history. And now we're going to hike it to the mine.
One question, Steve. The you know, like how boom towns in the Old West, when they pretty much overnight, just thousands of people right there. Was there like a big saloon presence here, as far as like you know, for poker players, all of that showing
All that.
up here?
Yep, everything.
Because they would just travel around from town to town wherever the money was at.
Yeah.
So that was right here also.
As a matter of fact, the saloon that we have here today, that's an original building, and that was a saloon back in the 1800s. It's always been a saloon. I actually have a picture of that from during Prohibition days, serving alcohol.
Wow.
So it's been a continuously running saloon pretty much the whole time.
Excellent.
Good question.
Ooh, ready, Cash?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Come back alive.
Ooh, hands cold.
Watch out for ghosts. Say hi for her.
What did it go?
Say,
You'll probably turn your headlamp down. Well, it's hard to see in the dark.
I have I'll be responsible for River, okay? And Nick's got Renee and I'll shut down.
And just point it down a little bit.
Come on, Rip. Miners.
Mm-hmm. 7 dwarves. I wonder how long these last, because I forget. Like, not my face. Big old rock.
Big cauldron or something they dug up. They dug down.
Can't feel my nose. Oof, yeah. Baby sock. Oh my gosh, so much dust.
Okay, is the last person here? Yep. Okay, how many of you guys are camping, by the way? Okay, just remember, when you go to bed tonight, put your socks and shoes, and when you wake up, shake the shoes out. Because this time of year is when tarantulas migrate.
Oh, yum.
What? Yeah, they do like sleeping in your shoes.
It's warm in there and smelly.
As I say that, is this time last year I did a tour and a couple kids started staring over the fence. I asked them what they were doing, and there was about 5 or 6 tarantulas right over on the other side of that fence.
Fun.
Oh, wow.
And about 3 months ago, right where we walked, there was a tarantula parked on the side of the road, just sit there long enough for everyone to take a picture for their Instagram.
I'm glad I wore the long socks.
Yeah.
This little munchkin needs a tire shoe.
Oh yeah, this is the year that they migrate. So, but I'm sincere. You should always check your shoes before you put them on in the morning. Okay, I like that. Okay, not a problem. All right, a little bit of more mining history. The Silver King mine used to be up the hill there a ways, almost directly up there. And what they did is the mine was further up the hill, so to get the ore down from up there to down here, they had a big old ramp. And they would roll the ore down the ramp into the back of a 20 mule team wagon. Quick trivia question, how many mules are in a 20 mule team?
20.
Wrong! 18. They always used 2 horses because they were more manageable.
Ah.
I know it. But anyway, so they'd use the wagons and they would run them down across the Dry Lake bed into beautiful downtown Daggett, which at the time for a while was called Calico Junction. You get the ore onto a train and then be processed. Problem is that's more expensive to keep the animals healthy and keep the wagons built and repaired. So they switched to a railroad car that looks quite a bit like this. They called it a puffer belly. And they ran a rail down the base of this hill, across there, the Dry Lake bed to a mountain called Elephant Mountain. It supposedly looked like an elephant. I never see it.
That's what a puffer belly is.
Yeah, that's what a puffer belly is. And the engine they would put into a roundhouse, they turn the engine around, while they're unloading the farm, and then they would run it out back up here, load it up and keep on going pretty much 24 hours a day. So if you're in a historical mood and you want to see what that roundhouse looks like, you go down to beautiful downtown Daggett. And again, it's downtown Daggett because it's one store. And across the street from there is a metal building that used to be a garage and a grocery store. And that's the roundhouse, because when the railroad stopped running, they just picked up the building and moved it downtown and used it for a store. All right, let's go to the mine. Whatever you do not push any buttons.
Do not push any buttons.
Yeah.
How many of you guys remember the movie Big?
Yeah.
There's Zoltar for you from Big.
Sweet.
Look at Zoltar, guys. You can wish. Don't wish to be big though.
We actually, in Barstow area, we have 2 of these Zoltar machines. One is at the Barstow station, and at Peggy Sue's you can get your fortune read by Elvis. I kid you not. There we go. Last one in, please close the door. Come around this way. That's why I say don't push buttons. Because I have to talk over the noise.
Down here so we can.
Yeah, scooch around here. We'll all be friends at least by the end of the tour. Either that or we'll hate each other. Doesn't matter to me. I heard the door shut. Cool. All right. Now, this is a ghost tour, I must admit, but I like to also think of it as 101 ways to die in a mine. This is the first way to die in a mine I'll tell you about. Now, when they dug up the ore, they dug up big rocks like that. Now, it didn't really look like that. That's this kind of junk rock we put in there, for example. And I'm not sure that's really blood on the rocks. I think it might actually be strawberry jam, but we won't talk about that because it hasn't turned brown yet in months, so I think it's strawberry jam. But the process to make the ore, to get the silver out, is they had to crush it into smaller pieces and soak it in chemicals to separate the silver from the junk ore. And one of the principal chemicals they used was arsenic.
Oh.
So if you were really good and you knew what you're doing, that was no problem. But a lot of these guys were amateur miners and stuff like that. So what they would do, and you actually could see it in the desert in some places, they would actually just in the back of their shed, they would dig a pit and they'd fill up the thing with chemicals like arsenic, and then they process their ore there. And you could tell they weren't really careful because their hair and their teeth would fall out in clumps and they'd get a little bit gray, and then they'd probably die in their early 20s. The one thing that they needed to do to get the ore into smaller places is they used an ore crusher or a stamp mill. Now the bigger operations used a stamp mill that was sometimes 2 or 3 stories high. There's one on Main Street you could see if you go down there today. But smaller operations use smaller stamp mills like this or like this. This one was used with an engine. This one actually was used by an engine or by hand. And if you guys who know antique cars, this is actually a crankshaft of an old car. They did that a lot. And what they do is they load the car in here, and you can tell, the ore in here, and you can tell the guys that worked on these stamp mills for too long, because after a while, they went deaf.
Ow.
Which I'm going to do, if I keep doing this job. Anyway, as promised, if you don't have a flashlight, I'll lend you one as long as you return it. So go ahead and run up and grab a flashlight. Make sure they work, because sometimes the batteries poop out on us.
Wherever you got one in your hand, you're good.
Could I buy a water also off you?
Yeah, just grab, give me $1, grab water.
There you go. And I'll return this.
I'm around here. Everyone got a flashlight? Needs one? You got a big silver one. I got a red one.
You can get one that says the glory hole. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's LED. Kind of blows the whole image.
I have a couple of them.
Here they are.
They're nice though.
Oh, yeah.
I hope.
All right. Everybody ready?
The glory hole we go.
All right.
Yeah. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, they're not coming with us? Boy. Like us on Facebook. Mm-hmm, because they covered everything up. In the mine. Sure, that's paint, not blood.
All right. Quick. This is not a trick question, by the way. I only have one of those the whole tour. Quick question. What is different about this mine if you look up? There's no supports. Why are no supports in here? Because it's solid rock. You got it. We're walking through solid rock right now, which is really kind of neat. Because we save on wood, but it makes it very hard to get through here. And this is another way you could die in the mine. Is in order to dig this mine, they used jackhammers and other machinery to dig through here. And this is before the days of OSHA and all the other work regulations. So these guys didn't use a dust mask or anything like that. So they breathed in this mine all the time. So that cut their lives short. Somewhere around halfway through this mine, they developed a more water-based system, which cut down the dust and helped them out a little bit more. And he's looking a little better. Now he's got a pickaxe, so maybe he will be using all these items. Not in this mine. In this area, they didn't use much dynamite because there's so many mines in the area. They're afraid if they blow one mine, they blow another mine on top of it. All right, so there were hundreds of mines here. Fun little bit of technology that miners use is called a sticking Tommy. This is a sticking Tommy. Very simple little thing. This hook here is, they hooked it in the hat. So when they wear it in, they would light it up. All of that in a second. And when they get to places where they were working, they'd hammer it in the wall, and there you go. I'll show you how it looks. Just a second, I'll show you the turn off your lights. We got some better matches. These days are really bad matches that never lit. Okay, turn off your lights. Show you how bright things are. Here, let me see. So imagine, if you would, having to work about a 12-hour shift, and that's the only light you see for 12 hours. But the candles they had were actually a little bit better than what we got here. Also, they worked, like I said, they worked 12-hour shifts, so they never saw the light of day, so their eyes got used to the darkness, so this is about as bright as daylight. Also, there'll be a whole bunch of guys in a row, all of these candles stuck in the wall. So it'll be pretty bright for them. But the only problem is a lot of these mines would have gas leaks, and they would go home. We actually have all right. Now, like I said, when they opened up Calico Ghost Town, word got out worldwide, literally worldwide, that there was new diggings here in Calico. People came from all over the place to explore. And with the people from all over the world, they brought their legends. And one of the legends is a really fun one, with the legend of the Tommyknacker, which was from the Cornwall area of England. Tommyknacker was a little guy about yay big, except he's all green. Not all blue, but all green. I actually did this story once, and there was a kid that was all green. Bless him. Anyways, he was all green, and it was believed that if you kept the Tommyknacker happy, he would watch out for the mine, and if things were about ready to collapse, he would knack against the wall and warn you that the mine was about ready to collapse. So what the miners would do is they'd eat their lunch down here, and they'd take a piece of the bread, a piece of their meat, and leave it behind for the Tommyknacker to eat, keep them happy. What's interesting about you study these legends is there's always a grain of truth, because that meat and the bread they leave behind, they always disappear. Why do you think it disappeared? Rats. And the truth of that is if you're working on here with your sticking Tommy, and all of a sudden you see all the rats heading for the exit, you're thinking, wait a minute, something's wrong, I better follow the rats. It's also believed that the knocking or knacking they heard may have been the wooden supports cracking. So there's a little bit of truth to the comment. Another reason why miners died with mine is probably one of the good reasons.
Can't hear him.
Sometimes in history you hear a story that is so ridiculous and so dumb it has to be true. And this is one of them. Now, normally a mine would be more than one layer. There'd be guys working above you, sometimes even below you. And what they would do is if they're working above you, they'd have these chutes here, and they dig out some ore and they roll it out here and put it in an ore cart out the door. This is a single level mine, so there's no tunnels above us. But they did put some chutes in here just to make it look like a multi-level mine. But the story goes that on payday, sometimes the miners would go out and get drunk. I know that's surprising, but yes, it happens. And the legend is that sometimes these miners would be worried that they would miss their shift the next day. So instead of going home and drinking, they go down into the mine and crash here on the mine floor. Now you can see what the problem is. People up top would be working, they just go throw like some rocks down the ramp, squish miner. So that's the reason why they say that they instituted a bell system. Hopefully the bell was loud enough to wake you up before the rocks did. So if you hear 3 bells, stay clear.
Right here.
Just that one time.
It's just so much more comfortable in the shoe. Wow.
Alright, this, as you can see by the name, is Dead Man's Drift. It's called that because, like the rest of the mine, this room was done without any support. It's about 20 to 30 feet high, about 40 to 50 feet wide. It goes back about that far too. It's a huge big room, and it's called Dead Man's Drift because miners were afraid to go back into this room because they were afraid that if somebody did some blasting in the area or an earthquake or just rotten luck, the whole room would collapse on them. As you can see, it has yet to collapse. There is some rock that has fallen off the side, not a lot. Here, I'll give you all a chance to look at it, so don't worry about that. There are some wooden pipes back there. The water here in the high desert is incredibly hard, and the metal at the time, at the 1800s, was not that great, so the water would eat through the pipes in just a matter of months. But they figured out that wooden pipes would survive, so they made the whole city water system out of wood, and they wouldn't seal up the wood, because the wood would swell with the water and seal itself up. Very good system. This is a very active area. This is a good place to take pictures. A lot of people have gotten pictures of figures in this room, orbs and streaks, and all sorts of other weird stuff come on out here. But the most interesting thing that people reported here is the sound of miners' voices and the sound of tools. They've heard that, but even more weird than that, they've heard women down here, which is really quite unusual because miners didn't want women down in the mine. They thought they were bad luck. You ladies are all bad luck. A lot of people really don't believe that the miners really thought that way. They were just using it as an excuse because mines were so dangerous they want to protect the women. However, red-headed women were another thing. Oh. Miners considered red-headed women to be like black cats. It was reported a number of times that miners would be walking to the mine and they passed a red-headed woman, they would whip at you and go back home and wouldn't go to work that day. Which is a funny story because the first time I ever did a solo tour, you know how you're really getting into your job and you're not really paying attention to the surroundings. I say that story and I took a breath and I looked, and standing right there were two red-headed women. And I'm like going, I am doomed. Anyways, it hasn't happened yet, but anyway, so that's what happened. But people have heard women down here laughing and talking and stuff like that. So at this point, this is a really good place to take pictures. We've had some luck here. So keep your feet behind this wood beam here and feel free to take pictures. I'll even try the light to help you out. I do that dramatic kick on the door because one time I did that and someone screamed.
That's what I was wondering.
This one has it. Yeah, it's been middle of the past few years, but yeah. There's tons of mines out here. We just, last week we had a guy fall down the mine. Broke his leg.
Oh.
He got pushed out to get the poor guy out.
Oh my gosh, it's hot.
But no, it wasn't his fault. He didn't know the mine was there. He just fell down. According to reports, he was at the bottom of the mine and they had to really work to get him out. Apparently his foot was around by his ear. And, yeah, I mean, that'll leave a mark.
Well, the dust kicking around in here is probably not orbs, it's probably just dust.
Well, they want to take pictures, so we're
Clear it out so you guys can take pictures.
Whenever we get the chance, I'll be there.
Here, we're gonna go.
Watch out for tarantulas, River. We're coming around, man.
Hey, if you have to see a tarantula here, I'm going They are, but it's kind of like bees. If you're not allergic to them, they're just, yeah. They're actually not considered the most painful insect bite in the United States. They're not even in the top 10. I've been stung by number 4 and not survived, so.
What was that?
Called a tarantula hawk.
Oh,
And trust me, you don't want to be stung by one of those.
Where's the recorder? Yep.
Didn't have a
Can
chance.
get you in there too, Steve.
There you go. Feel free.
And 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Oh, excuse me.
I imagine a lot of dust is kicked around, so I'm not
Yeah.
aiming on any orbs, but
Mm-hmm. And welcome to Mojave.
right?
Oh yeah. I have a friend of mine lives down by the river, and on windy days she can actually see the dust roll under her door frame. All right. I love that sound. It's so fun. Something like from Edgar Allan Poe. All right.
Wait, is this supposed to be a trick?
What?
It says exit, turn right.
No, because you're coming that way, you turn it.
Okay, first a couple things about this spot. Whoop, turn off this right. See this orange rock above you? That's silver ore. And the worst I ever had a kid scream was because of this little piece of wood right here. I was doing the tour and he looked up and said, "What's this piece of wood?" And I said, "If I pull it off, the whole mine collapses." And he screamed and almost ran out. To this day, I don't know what that wood is, but it doesn't move, so I don't do that anymore. Anyways, that was not one of my better moments. There's a ghost story that one of the ladies that worked up front told me about this place. In this area, there was a lady came through here who was blind. She was being led by her granddaughter, and they were doing a self-guided tour, and granddaughter was holding on grandma's hand, and they're going through, and right about here, grandma turned to granddaughter and said, "Who's holding my other hand?" Granddaughter looked, and of course, no one's holding her other hand. And so granddaughter's probably thinking grandma's gone a little bit batty. Anyways, so they went on down that way. And grandmother did finally lose her temper a little bit, and she turned to her other hand and said, "Whoever's holding my hand, quit it. You're freaking me out." And her hand went up and back down, and whoever was holding her hand let go.
Wow.
Good one.
Like, dark rock is silver ore.
But they actually did live down in this mine. Now, when you go to work a mine or a prospect, you use all your geologic knowledge, you use all your scientific knowledge,
Silver ore.
you use everything you can learn. But when you get done with that, you also can use a coin. Without a coin, you flip it. Heads you dig over here, tails you dig over here. That's what the McKays did. They flipped it, and they dug over here for the better part of 10 years. And they got absolutely nothing.
That's too dark
So
to
they
really
gave
see
up.
much.
Don't feel bad for them because they ended up doing some diggings in Arizona and Nevada, and they ended up dying rich men. So they did all right. But if the coin went the other way to the left side, on this side, up top there was one day a kid from Calico who knew what he was doing, was walking around, and he ran across the rock. He says, "That looks like silver." So he picked it up, he marked where he found it, and he took it to his dad, and he showed his dad, and his dad agreed that looked like silver. So they went to the assayer's office, and the assayer was the official that first off determined whether or not you really had the mineral that you thought you had, and whether or not you had the legal right to dig there. They had silver, and they had the legal right. And as you can see the sign there, they found $65,000 worth of silver.
Wow.
The poor old McKay brothers lost out on $65,000 on a coin toss. Now, fun thing about the McKay brothers is they haunted me personally, in a sense. Shortly after I started doing these tours, I'm also a photographer. And a lady called me from Arizona. She's writing a book on another cemetery that's near here, called the Pioneer Cemetery. And she wanted me to take some pictures of the gravestones, so she paid me well. And we gave her the pictures, she gave me the money, we were all happy, and we're talking on the phone. And I said that I do these tours, and she said, is my grandpa and my great uncle still down in the mine in Calico? I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And she's been here. She said, my grandpa is laying in the bed, and my great uncle is sitting at the table. And these were her grandpa and great uncle.
Wow. Cool story. Yeah.
Behind us, you notice the dungeon that we have here in the line, or the kind of interesting looking kind of beat up? That's because they, first off, they're interesting looking because they're made out of cement. And they're kind of old because they originally were in Knott's Berry Farm. And they got shipped up there. Fixed them up. But the weirdest looking guy is behind us here. We call him Big John. Looks like something from an 84 movie. And we always stop here to talk about Big John and give everyone a chance to take a picture of him. Now, when you start doing these tours, you're running the job. For the first day, you actually come on as a guest, and you just kind of experience the tour. So I did that over a year ago, and we got to this point, and the tour guide talked about Big John, and everyone got a chance to take a picture. You just reach through your hands to the gate and take a picture. So I went up there with another lady. I didn't take a picture. I regret that. And she did. She reached through the gate there, and she had her camera on fast shots. So she just took 3 shots real quick. Click, click, click. And then we went off to the side there and gave everyone else a chance. And I turned to her and said, did you get anything interesting? She said, let's see. And the first and third picture, just picture Big John, no big deal. The second picture was a figure in white standing in front of Big John. And no one else had got that picture. So that's the one time I've actually seen a ghost. So now you can get, at least get a picture of Big John, and please tell me if the canary is dead, okay?
Was it white?
No. That's going to flash.
Grandma, you better get the ghost.
And that's Uncle Jay, I feel sorry for him.
No, we're just messing with him.
Funny you said that. When I came to mine earlier, I was coming up.
Yeah, he does. He's got a big axe on his
Not even
I've been talking to you for Halloween.
There's a light
I think they're afraid too many people look at that on the floor.
no white figure. Grandma. There is no white figure.
Yep.
Any good shots?
Yeah. Can't even see my guy. said you had to reach your hands through. Abu. I'm seeing a lot of dust.
All right, this is the end of the mine. For the most part, we're not going to go up the stairs because it's kind of rough to walk up there. We're going to go out back to where we came for another reason also. A little bit of history. When Walter Knott first opened up this mine, there was no staircase, but that was the exit up there. And they actually had a wooden ladder you had to climb out to go out there.
Oh, God.
So you imagine that. I actually had a lady that was on the tour, and she came here as a kid. She climbed up that ladder to get out here. She told me that. This is an interesting place. A lot of sightings here, but from children, little children. So you guys get something to look forward to. For some reason, children are more attuned to spirits, and they see figures on these stairs. We've actually had a number of reports of kids get at the foot of these stairs, and they refuse to go any further.
Wow.
As they say that they see men in old clothes looking at them, standing on the stairs. And for years, people wondered why were there spirits of possibly minors standing on the stairs. And then a few months back, I had a couple from Sweden who, of all things, were having their honeymoon at Calico. And the husband came up with a theory, and I think it's a really cool theory. He says that the ghosts of Calico, of this mine, are hanging out on these stairs because there's a new piece of metal in the mine, and the miners are trying to figure out whether or not it's valuable, whether or not they can get it cut up and get out of the mine. And they're spending their eternity figuring out this new vein of metal in the mine. And when he said that, I'm like, Anyway, the rest of the tour,
Spirits might be attracted.
we have one more stop, by the way. Please take your time walking out. Every few steps, turn back to take pictures because people have a lot to do with that. Also, make sure to take pictures of the stairs.
Oh, yeah, because they're kicking up the dust. It's not
Can I ask a
horror.
question?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the tour, you mentioned how the price of the silver went down so much, and it kind of ended the whole town. What caused the price to go down? Was it just too much on the market, or?
I think it was too much on the market, and I think the government deregulated. I'm not sure. It was something to do with the government did something to it. I don't remember. But it could be that it did that. But it's amazing how much supply did. There was a town of Boron had borax. And there was so much borax on the first day that they mined that borax, the price of borax worldwide went down by half.
Wow.
On the first day.
Yeah.
So it could be a supply. I think it had something to do with the government.
You know, or it's like you get the good amount and then you're spending too much to get small, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Opening up there?
Especially if the price goes down.
Yeah.
I want to get out. Yeah, I see nothing.
Okay, check this out. That's my phone. No, I just love over
I saw a shadow in that picture.
You got me all excited now to.
They got a shadow.
Oh, in the back.
Them.
That one? I thought it was your flashlight.
No. Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Now you scare me.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe it wasn't your flashlight. Who knows? You're all the flashlight you.
Right, I knew I saw something. It's possible.
Say there's down and then there's up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I said. Don't know.
Hard to say.
You're going on Troy without the selfie by the flash. All right.
No, go ahead. Are there any spirits who would like to speak to us while everybody's leaving? Can you tell us goodnight? Don't want to get too far behind everybody else. What was his name? Big John? Ooh. When it's really quiet, I definitely feel something when it's quiet. I feel like a pressure. Yeah. I think I've been not paying attention.
Yeah.
Oops. I accidentally stopped the first video. I was like, dang it. I was trying to take a picture earlier about at that spot, and I pressed stop instead of pause. I mean, stop instead of picture. The footprints on the ground are fun. Bye, guys. See you next time. Got a ladder up there. What happened? You see something? Right? I love these. Some of them are blacklight sensitive. I had to try to take some pictures. See if we can catch it again. Yes.
Okay, everyone, return your flashlights. Alrighty.
We're about 30 miles of tunnels. I can hear them. They press the button.
Assay office is important to a mining town like Calico. I receive bullion for precious metals from the folks mining in these hills. Then use some of the tools
And them there hills.
test the purity of the metals. I also keep records showing what was found and who found it. So if you find silver, bring it back to me.
Hey, look, we need a P.O. box right there, and there's one.
I'm glad you asked. An assay office is important to a mining town like Calico.
Ooh,
I
look at
receive
that.
bullion for precious metals from the folks mining
I love
in these
this thing.
hills. Then use some of the tools you see here. Test the purity of the metals. I also keep records showing what was found and who
Wonder if
found
those
it.
buffalo heads
So
are
if you
real.
find
That's
silver,
huge.
Bring it back to me.
Legacy is a claim stake used at each corner of a mining claim which runs 600 feet by 15,000 feet in size. The tobacco can hold identification required at each stake.
There you go.
And that's all I'm going to read. Those can't be real. Those are huge. Oh, we're coming.
Like that time you bought a bag of paper bag and you didn't know what was in it, and it was beans.
Oh, he has some little trinkets in there. There's 3 of cups,
All right.
9 of swords, Queen of pentacles, and Knight of pentacles. And he has some crystals in there too. And a silver bell. By Zoltar. Chicken in the straw. I'm okay. I don't know what's safer, the rocks or the rocky steps. I'll probably trip either way because I'm a klutz. No tarantulas, no tarantulas. No tarantulas.
Pause the recording until on the next leg of the tour.
What time is it?
It's 7:03.
It's 7 what?
7:03.
Oh crap, we're late for the other one.
Oh, he's doing that one, isn't he?
Well, yeah. So do we have to go and start off again? There might be somebody meeting us. Do we get another bathroom break?
All right. This is our last stop of the tour, even though it isn't in a mine. This is Chinatown. We had people from all over the world, like I said, and we had Chinese here, even though at the time there was a law called the Chinese Exclusionary Act. There was a lot of prejudice against the Chinese. They felt that they were going to be taking away their jobs, so they didn't want Chinese to come into America, which was kind of silly because if it wasn't for the Chinese, the railroad wouldn't have been built, and most of the West wouldn't have been built. I just read a book, just literally last week, about people traveling over the Mexican border to come to America for jobs, and the Chinese were the first people to do that. They would sail a ship into Mexico and then cross the border and get jobs here in America. Interesting. It's widely said that the Chinese did not work the mines here in Calico or anywhere else, and I say to that, that's malarkey, because you can't tell me a young kid, no matter what race, creed, or religion, that had a choice between washing dishes or finding his fortune out in the mines, what he would choose. He would go out and find his fortune. So I imagine there were a few Chinese out there digging in the dirt. But for the most part, the Chinese here in Calico, they worked behind the scenes in the restaurants, and also they did laundry. They kind of worked behind the scenes in town. That lends itself to one of the more interesting, colorful period stories of Calico. Is one day, because there was prejudice against the Chinese, there were some miners at one of the taverns decided to go teach the Chinese a lesson, aka beat them up. So they came down from down Main Street Way, and they came here, and they're going to raise some heck with the Chinese. Chinese saw them coming, and like I said, the Chinese did the laundry, and back then they had those heavy metal irons that they would heat up on the stove. So the Chinese saw them coming, and they started collecting their irons, and when they got in range, they started chucking the irons at these guys, and these guys realized, hey, wait a minute, we're kind of outmanned here, so we better leave. And the punchline to that is the people of Calico liked the fact that there was someone around to do their laundry and someone around to do their dishes. So the guys that are going to pick a fight with the Chinese, they were kicked out of town. And they were apologized. This was Chinatown, like I said before. Most of the buildings here are original. They were adobe and they've just kind of weathered over the years. Some of these buildings may have been put up later on, maybe by Walter Knott himself, trying to expand the area.
No roof.
Yep. They're old. Anyways, our tour guide Patty, some of you know her. She's seen more of the spirits than anyone. She's kind of in tune to that. She has seen Chinese figures walking through this area here. Over by that street light over there, she's seen an older gentleman. The way she describes it, that gentleman he may have been a person by the name of Ah Fu, who was the unofficial mayor of Chinatown. And behind us, over that way, she saw a young girl playing hopscotch at one time. So, very active area, especially when you come by during Presidential Weekend in February, because we have our Civil War days. And usually the Confederacy or the Union takes over this town, and they have battles over it. Really kind of cool.
When is that?
President's Day weekend. Or back.
Yep. Don't want to blind anybody. Oh, it's freaking tiny. Quick scrub, 5 cents. Full scrub, 10 cents. I guess they put the babies in the little one. Careful, babe. Can we look inside? Back scrub, full scrub. Try it for size. Get anything in there? Another tub over here. Probably. These things are just... Gassy tunnel, keep out.
Huh.
That's what they said.